episode of Beyond the Brand. I'm your host Ranbir, and today I have with us Jyothsna Sekar, currently working at Google, and she is an alum of SPJIMR 2009 batch, and she has previously worked with big brands like Flipkart, Unilever, and Bharti Airtel. So without any ado, let's begin this podcast. Over to you, Jyothsna. How are you doing?
Very good, Ranbir. Thank you for having me. Very happy to be here and meet all of you.
It's our pleasure, Jyothsna. So I just really want to start this podcast with one question, as I am also an MBA student. I want to know, how was your time at SPJIMR? Do you miss those days? How is it?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it was a long time ago, but honestly, I think it was the most formative years of my journey, and SP was definitely one of those experiences that shaped me as an individual and also opened me up to the world after MBA. So very thankful for my time there. I think, of course, what I learned there is definitely valuable, but beyond that, I'd say just the friends I made, the relationship with my professors, the network that I built. I think that's even more invaluable than even everything that you study in class. So really loved the experience there. It was a very rich college that focused on a lot of different things. So SP was not just about the in-classroom experience, but we were really nudged and pushed into experiences that shaped us as individuals. You may have heard some of them. So I did a project with an NGO, I did a project with a government institution, I worked with the municipality here, I worked in Dharavi. So a lot of those really formative experiences was what SP stands for to me. And yeah, really loved my time there.
That's great, Jyothsna. So I was just going through the talk with you, and I realized that you have worked with three sectors: FMCG, tech, e-commerce. These are like three different worlds. So how did this happen? Like, were you planning it all or just going with the flow?
You know, I'd love to say that I planned it all out, but I don't think that's true. And I don't think you should believe anyone who says they planned the next 10, 15 years out. I don't think it works like that. So I think I've generally had the thumb rule of really making the best of every opportunity, right? I didn't think when I started off at SP that I would end up in Airtel. That was not my first, port of call when I thought about an MBA. But then when the opportunity came, I was really excited about Airtel. And once I got into Airtel, I in fact started with selling B2B lease lines, right? Like, which is nothing to do with, what you learn in a B school. But thoroughly enjoyed that as well, and it really opened my eyes to a different industry that I hadn't even learnt about or thought about. And ever since then, I think every single role and every single job that I have done, I think has shaped, and I've taken away something from it that's always added to the next experience. And I've been really lucky to have had the variety of experiences that I've had, whether it is different industries or different roles, whether it was sales, whether it was marketing, and now of course in Google, where everything comes together in a very beautiful way. It wasn't planned, but yeah, I think just focusing on, learning, being curious along the way, and diving head straight into whatever the opportunity is and making the best of it has kind of guided my journey along the way. Yeah.
So every experiences that you had just pushed you to next level.
Absolutely.
And ultimately it's helping you at Google.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's how it is. I don't think when I started the role in Google today even existed. I don't know if it did, right? And that we are also in those times today. We talk about AI, we talk about the disruption in the industry. I don't think we know what's going to happen 5 years down the line. But what you do know is if you have the ability to learn and adapt, I think those are the skill sets that will really hold you, as your journey progresses.
Yeah, so even my lecturers were always telling me like adaptability and just being able to predict some kind of change that is going to happen in the industry and preparing for it is actually going to help you in one way or another.
Absolutely.
So my next question is on this lines only.
Yeah.
So looking back your time at Bharti Airtel and looking to the time that you're currently working at Google, how do you think marketing as a domain has changed? Because earlier a lot of things were on intuition, how consumers perform, but now it's more like consumer centric, all about data.
Yeah.
Like, what do you have to say on this?
Yeah, no, it's a very loaded question. I don't know if I have all the answers, but I do have more questions, and I think maybe that's the journey to keep figuring it out, right? If I have to look back, I think the one thing that maybe worked for me, or at least gave me a good foundation to start off, was that Airtel is a very, very data-centric organization. And even when I joined, I'm talking about more than a decade back, even then was always a data-focused organization. Like, of course, there was intuition. You had to spend time with your consumer. You had to understand the pulse of the consumer, which is what a good marketer does. But you have to still form those hypotheses and come back and test it with data. So luckily that foundation is something that I think Airtel instilled in me, and I feel like that's definitely a skill of the future. No matter what the intuition or hypothesis says, or no matter what your consumer tells you, yes, as a marketer you need to know that and you need to be in touch with that, but you always need to come back and hypothesize and test and learn with data. So Airtel definitely set me up well. You spoke about change. I'm thinking back to my Airtel times. I was among the first group of people who helped launch 3G in one of the circles, and at that time it felt like the world is going to change because we were used to voice calls and 2G, and then 3G was coming for the first time, and everybody was thinking about what's 3G going to do. And today we are sitting at a very different paradigm where again we feel like AI is going to change everything. So this feeling of something is going to change the world will happen every 2 to 3 years or 5 years with all of us, and that's true for how things are. But like you said, going back to really skills that you develop on data analysis, but still being very close to the consumer, solving a consumer problem, I think that's what is the core of marketing, and that's not going to change. So no matter what you do, which industry you're in, which consumer segment, which product, no matter what changes, some of these things is what will make you a good marketer, and that is what I think we should develop. If I was starting out today, that's what I'd focus on.
Yeah, that's really great insight. I'll definitely incorporate these kind of things. And my another question is that, as you mentioned about AI, a lot of us in our colleges are regularly using AI to just do a lot of stuff, just automate it. Is this also going in the industry at Google, at HUL where you work? Are they also focusing and leveling up with AI? Because we personally think as students, we were having a discussion that AI is actually reducing our creativity. So is it actually true it is increasing in industry or decreasing? What is your take?
I mean, again, I don't know if I have all the answers, but I can give you my take on it, which is my personal take, right? I think, see, AI is it's already happened. This is the future, and it's here to stay. I don't think it may be right to look at whether it will increase or decrease what we do. How are you being able to be creative with AI is the challenge that each of us has to solve. How are you going to solve a problem differently using AI is how you should think about it. Having said that, I think we are headed in a direction where, AI is going to do a lot of the things that we did, but it makes it even more important for you as the human in the loop to bring in that right insight and still differentiate and do something different versus everybody else in the market, add incremental value for your consumer versus other players, and how you can build that loyalty, build that brand for yourself, build the right solution for them. So yeah, it's another thing that has changed, like how we had data, and then we had internet, and then we had digital, and now we have AI. Of course it's changing, but it's the how of it. I don't think it's going to change what you need to do. What you need to do is still connect with your consumer. How you do it will change, and AI will make a big difference there.
So do you guys use AI at Google?
Absolutely. I mean, we are pretty much at the front and center of everything AI, and we are going to continue to be leading the way. I am very excited about everything that we are doing, and I think there's some amount of that automation that we have as Googlers that we bring to our customers, that we bring to our partners. So that's definitely front and center of everything we do. And to your question, I think every industry and every vertical is actually adopting AI in very different ways. We are seeing it unfold right in front of us, whether it is in making the creative, whether it is the kind of ads you run, whether it's the kind of targeting you do. So it's going to touch every part of that journey, both for the consumers and for the marketers. But yeah, it's exciting times. I think there is a lot that can happen there, and that's the journey that all of us need to discover.
We recently got Google Gemini for free for 1 year. And is this something that marketers also play a role in? Like, was you somehow related to it? Like, what was your contribution? Something related to this?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could take credit, but no, I didn't have a role to play there. But I do know that in Google there is a very, I can't speak for the company, but I have heard of very concerted efforts to bring the right products to the right segment of people. I'm sure there's a lot more that will happen there. But I'm very excited to see that that's come to you, and I hope you're having fun with it. It's an amazing tool.
Uses it.
Lovely. That's great to hear. Yeah.
So my next question is for all the B school students that are currently watching this podcast. Like majority of us are still on our SIP for first years, for second years, it's the final placements that are going on. We see multiple companies that are coming for digital marketing role, performance marketing, advertisement, branding, and coming out as a fresher or even with work who's changing the domain. It's all very confusing. So can you tell like where to start? Like how can we even just start preparing for this so we can have some kind of edge in our interviews?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think, before I give kind of any inputs there, the first thing to acknowledge is that every single one of you is going to have a very different journey, right? And there is no one right or wrong way to have a journey. One is not more successful than the other. It feels like that. I know you're in the middle of your placement season or your SIP season. It feels like the first job is going to kind of determine your whole career ahead. But I can tell you that's not the case. So there will always be new things, and you will keep navigating different opportunities as you go along. So, just keep an open mind and dig into, whatever comes your way. And there is enough and more to learn and do, I think, out there in the industry. And in India, especially given, the economy is booming, this is the land of opportunity today. So having said that, I think if you are someone who is passionate about marketing, and if you are someone who wants to grow in that domain, I think, all parts of what you mentioned will always be relevant, right? You need to firstly come up with a great product for whichever company you work for. You need to make sure that that product is working with your consumer segment. You need to understand your consumer segment. You need to have enough market research capabilities. You need to be able to deliver the product in a way that reaches them, both from a mental availability as well as a physical availability standpoint. All of these fundamentals don't change, right? But what will change is, are you now doing it better than everybody else for your company, for your role, for your consumer? And that's where maybe upskilling in AI becomes very important. So if you're starting out today, don't wait for the opportunity or your first role or job to give you that. You can very well start and be a self-starter and take that initiative and be curious about how else some of these things will evolve. So the first tip I'd say is, jump and take whichever opportunity you think is going to shape the role. And, we have something called 20% in Google that we are very proud about, where every single person in the organization can spend 20% of their time doing other projects or roles or things that are not related to your core job per se, right? In fact, some of our massive products today, including like a Gmail, were born out of those 20% projects. The reason I say that is because while Google has a program for it, you can do that in any role, in any job, in any company, right? You can always invest and find sponsors for things that you're passionate about, things that are going to be the future. So I'd say, jump in with that mindset no matter what you're picking up. Like if you think there is opportunity, go after it, find your sponsors, build on it, come up with the hypothesis, and I'm sure, you will craft your own way. So yeah, that's what I'd leave with you, that it doesn't matter where you start, go right into it, pick up the right basics of marketing in whichever industry it is, and as you go along, you will see the path unfolding as well. Yeah.
Yes, so for all the students, this is your tip: just go find corporate projects. Any projects that you can just go out of the way, like do extra, that is eventually going to help you out.
Absolutely. Nothing like doing and learning, right? In fact, y'all are also in the space where India has got so much of funding, and there's so much of VC funding that's come our way. Even if there is no corporate project, a lot of you could be starting your own, organizations or companies or, outfits, and you may all be entrepreneurs a few years from now, why even a decade. So there is enough opportunity. I think you don't need to wait for anyone to give you opportunity anymore, whether it's in a company, whether it is outside. So I just say jump right in and take the initiative. I think that's a great place to start.
Do you also plan to start your own venture, become an entrepreneur?
I don't know yet. I think for now, I feel like even within Google, things change so much every month, every day almost. So I feel like I'm already in a startup. While it is a very large organization, it does give me the fulfillment of really building things from scratch. So I'm very happy with that space. But never say never, right? You never know.
So my another question is, like, since these placements, since we are on this topic, like most of the companies that are coming in, they basically offer the on-field work. So this is also a question from my peers as well. The question is, like, we are starting with off-field work, and how can we just go into that in-office work, shift from sales to marketing? You have done it all, worked at a sales role also, worked at a marketing role also. So how does that shift go on?
That's an interesting question. See, I think the first thing to think about is, again, whether I wouldn't define it as in office or outside office. I define it as what are your goals for the career and what are the skills that you want to pick up, right? Of course, you'll have to balance it out with also, your stage of life and what you want to do, and that is a lifelong balance. You'll have to keep kind of figuring it out. But I'd say at this stage, when you can be open to as many opportunities, moving from a sales to a marketing in most organizations does happen, like a lot of that, moving between sales to marketing, marketing to sales, and those paths exist in a lot of organizations. What's important is to build the skills required to make that transition. I think the people who make that transition successfully are people who are already ready in their current role to do the next role. So if you are in a sales role in an organization and you want to get into marketing, I think the thing to do is, are you building the marketing skills already? Are you able to look at a larger consumer insight beyond just your region, beyond just your market? It's an example, right? And that could show, maybe your team or your organization that you're ready for it. Are you able to analyze consumer insights differently versus what you would do in your sales role? Are you able to bring up the right inputs, have those conversations with your marketing team? So you can start building towards that from your role. You don't have to wait for the role to start that work. Okay. I think that's the first tip I'd leave with you. The second thing is, I think today, there's enough opportunity to do everything everywhere. So you'll have to always think of your career as like multiple vectors and balancing them together. If you are very, very clear that you want to do a marketing role, then I would say jump and go for a marketing role in maybe a startup or in some other organization. You don't have to do sales and then go into marketing. Those myths don't exist anymore, in my opinion. It could, like, a lot of people may disagree with me. In fact, in my career, I started in marketing. Airtel, I started off as a marketer. And then I decided that no, I want to do sales roles because I wanted that value. So after almost 4 to 5 years of marketing, I moved into sales in HUL. And that was something I wanted to do, and I thought that was important for me to be able to get to a leadership role, because sales gives you that opportunity. So careers don't have to be that linear. You don't have to start in sales and then do marketing. You don't have to do marketing to do something else. It's all, you can play around with that playbook. Go for what you want and do it irrespective of you having that role, or if somebody is giving you that job or not. Today, the industry is so vast that you will get the role you want if you're able to compromise on maybe other things that are not as important. Maybe the brand is different versus what you thought. Maybe the location is different versus what you thought. Maybe it looks different and it's a different segment, but go for it.
So you mentioned about some marketing projects that you did.
Yeah.
So I want to just ask, were there any specific marketing campaigns that you related to most, that you contributed a lot at working at different organizations? How, as a team, you were working in contributing ideas? How did that ideation part happen? I'm really curious about that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them. I feel like the most relevant is the work I do today. So as a part of my job at Google, I work with a lot of in companies, industries, maybe small and medium businesses in the country, which really kind of are carving out their growth path and their marketing path. So I can talk about, of course, without disclosing, keeping in mind the confidentiality of my partners and customers at Google, but I can give you a few examples that are public, right? So there is work that, the team and my org did with some of the jewelry brands that are up and coming in the country today, where we kind of design their entire marketing plan, starting from when they should launch, to what kind of portfolio they should launch, to who should be their brand ambassador, to designing an entire influencer-led campaign for them, to the messaging of it, and then kind of that delivered value. So that was a very fulfilling experience. Similarly, I've worked with some organizations which are in the in the public sector and NGO space, and there again the challenge is very different. You're not really marketing, but you're trying to build awareness for the cause. And we've done some massive campaigns on that front, using entirely digital inventory on YouTube, which is not something you directly relate to a problem statement like that. And that's been a very fulfilling experience as well. Just thinking about, like, who needs to know about this problem, who cares about this problem, what kind of communication do we want to do, what are the channels that will work. I think all of these nuts and bolts is where the joy is in marketing. So yeah, a lot of these campaigns, but yeah, I mean, without giving you specifics, I wanted to just kind of share.
How do you know a particular campaign is actually going to work? Like there was this research where it mentioned that if we put in a lot of insights that yes, this campaign is going to work, it will most probably fail. Because we are not relying on that gut feeling, we are not relying on that instinct. So how do you actually differentiate that yes, it's going to work? Like, how does a team come to a consensus on that part?
Yeah, my answer might be a little biased, but I'm trained by Google, and I'm trained by some of the organizations that you spoke about, and all of those organizations has taught me to really be data first, right? So like I said, yes, you need to do a lot of consumer work. In fact, Unilever used to have this thumb rule. I don't know if they still have it. This is from my experience there, that any brand manager who would come onto a brand would not be able to touch anything on the brand playbook till they've done 100 hours of consumer work, which means meet at least 100 consumers, talk to them, sit with them, understand what role does the brand play in their lives, why are they choosing this brand, and what's the emotional connection to the brand. And so I think first is, of course, really assimilating yourself in the product, in the brand, in the proposition that it offers. But once you do that, I think anything else you do today, even in a lot of large, what you may think intuitive brand building organizations, even there, a lot of these decisions are driven by data. They're driven by hypothesis, testing those hypotheses, maybe doing 5, 7, 8 experiments, understanding each of them through data, through the lens of that, and then kind of going and really scaling that up. And I think especially in Google, that's what we do, right? We do that so beautifully now, where it's almost an art. It's not a science anymore, because you need to be able to read through, and that's where your consumer work meets the data and the science, and it kind of, that magic happens. But if you ask me, I don't think it's one or the other. It's a mix of two. You need to know the brand in your, like, just the touch and feel of it, but you also need to test and experiment and have everything set up for your data to speak to that. So it is that beautiful combination of art and science.
Yeah, so looking from a consumer lens, like we scroll, tons of doom scrolling is happening, a lot of, and the consumer, like, attention span is so less, like even less than a goldfish, there was this. And so how are brands actually touching on that pain point of the customer? Because attention span is so less. Are they just relying more on trust, their past visibility that they had, or are they more relying on the recent customer experiences, what they really want, like what is it, how is it happening?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. It's a great problem statement for marketers to solve today. You are in an environment where there is a lot of clutter in the consumer mind. You're not just competing with the competitors in your industry, but you're competing with every avenue that's taking away their attention. You're competing with, like you said, social media. You're competing with, a YouTube, and you're competing with the YouTube shorts of the world. So there is that clutter in the consumer's mind. But what that's pushing marketers to do is, one, be really true to the brand and be consistent about what you're speaking about. So consumers don't have time to absorb a lot of confusion of your brand and your proposition. So it's pushing marketers to be more sharp. It's pushing brands to be very clear and consistent in their messaging, and really be clear on what they stand for, right? And once you do that, how are you really participating in that ecosystem? You can't be fighting versus the attention span. Are you also adopting, maybe to a YouTube, and, are your ads relevant to that platform, to that channel? You can't, earlier there used to be a time when, a marketer would make an ad or create a campaign based on a consumer insight, and would run the same thing on TV, run the same thing on, let's say, YouTube, run the same thing on multiple other channels. Those days are gone. You need to be integrated into what the experience on YouTube is going to be, and how does my message translate there, and very differently think about what that means for maybe other channels or other media models. So you have to integrate yourself with the journey of your consumer, and that's, while this rule doesn't change, right? The channels could change, the consumer journey could change. Today they are on phone, tomorrow maybe they will be on their glasses or on their watch, we don't know. But the fact that you have to integrate in that journey doesn't change. So you have to keep innovating and thinking about your consumer more and more in a way that you are relevant to them, and they find you useful, and they connect to you as a brand, as a story, as a proposition is important.
So you mentioned a lot of things.
Yes.
And taking forward on this, like a lot of work is required on consumer insight, how we have to adapt, and how we have to predict the next change. So for this, a really great team is also needed. And so you have, from our earlier talks, I remember you have also participated in some hiring processes.
Yeah.
So what do these companies actually want from candidates? Are they actually betting on the person, or are they actually betting on the skills?
Again, great question. No one right answer. I think every organization, team, every manager, everybody hires very differently. I can speak from the experience of having done this for maybe some of my previous organizations at Flipkart, at Unilever, and at Google. Again, my personal view, right? Not that this is what they recommend. See, I think it's a combination of things, right? As a team member, or as a manager, or as a leader, when you're looking at building your team, number one, you want people who will add to that team, either from a culture perspective, or from a skill perspective, or from an experience perspective. You want to get someone who will also bring themselves and bring their value into the team, rather than, of course, just looking at someone to fill a spot. That's no longer how hiring works, right? You're looking at an entire puzzle, and you're trying to fill pieces of it to make the team bigger than just the sum of its parts, if that makes sense. In some cases, maybe there is a specific skill being looked for, in which case then that's what you want to showcase. But in some cases, maybe you bring an entirely complementary skill or experience to this. I can speak from my own journey, right? When I made the transition from Airtel to HUL, it was a very unlikely transition. Not too many people went from telecom marketing to FMCG sales, right? But it just happened that the role that HUL was looking for was to go deeper into one specific geography that they were carving out as a new cluster. And I had done exactly that in Airtel, where I had a geography specific strategy and which I built out for Airtel. And it was a skill that they were looking for, that maybe Unilever at that point was not looking at internally and wanted somebody from outside who had more specialty in that. So it was a skill that translated, where I was learning a few things, but I was also bringing something to the table, right? So maybe be very clear about that value proposition of what you bring to that team or that org or that particular role. Similarly, again, when I went from Unilever to a Flipkart or a Google, I had no digital experience in the past, but it was an aspiration and I was building towards it. I had started doing a lot of that work back in Unilever. So while I was in a sales leadership role in Unilever, I worked on creating a media plan for the geography that I was working on that had nothing to do with my core job, but I felt it was important for business. I felt it was important for the growth of that particular geography and for the consumer. So that became the reason why some of these other roles then made saw value in that partnership, right? So I'd say don't look at a process as just the company evaluating you or you evaluating the company. It's a two-way street. Be very clear about what is the value that you're bringing to that place or team. So that then it's kind of like a fit and like a marriage made in heaven almost, right? So I mean, and you'd be surprised at like the things that actually matter. It's not what's always just what meets the eye. There is a lot of nuance. Everybody wants to build a great team. So just thinking about it from both sides makes that conversation more fruitful.
So what do you suggest to the students that who wants to enter into marketing? Should they also do certifications from Google, like Google Ad certification? Google Garage is there. There are tons of certification are there. Do you want like all of us like do that certification, learn from it? Because eventually you said like since we had that past exposure, because as a student we cannot go on field and do a lot of things. You previously had the opportunity to work with Airtel where you worked with different departments. So we can do courses and then eventually some point it might help us. What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, there is no substitute for learning, right? And I mean, like I said, I am someone who's always focused on like being curious and learning. These are great ways to learn, and today more than ever, there are so many avenues to go deep into any topic you want, and really good resources out there, right? I am still doing AI courses today, even though I'm at Google and I'm learning from Google and it's at the forefront of it. I do AI courses outside because maybe something was exciting and I want to learn about one particular thing today, and it is a lifelong process. I think it's never old to go back and learn something from scratch. Always do that. So just personally, I would definitely recommend it, especially when you're a student, because that muscle is still very much alive, and the more you learn, the more you understand a little bit about it, it'll help you, and you don't know how the dots will connect. Tomorrow you may be working on a very different project where all of these dots may connect for you, and you may be able to bring something to the table because you learned it sometime in the past, right? So definitely big thumbs up to learning everything you can, especially around digital marketing, especially around how this works, what are the products, what's the general sense there. And secondly, like you said, some of these projects you may get to do organically when you join an organization or a role. But again, I would say don't wait for it. Today, there are like millions of opportunities. You can freelance, you can pick up a project, you can do it for your friend who's maybe starting up, as a weekend, maybe like a workshop with him. So don't wait for opportunities. You should start creating them. I think that holds true for everybody, not just students, but anyone today who's building a career, even in the corporate. I think I would always say create your opportunities and look for it. Eventually it'll all add up.
That's a really great insight. So just some people prefer to, like one company they joined, they just want to excel in that particular organization and create opportunities for that particular company in different domains.
Yes, absolutely.
Like you particularly did, because you work for let's 5 to 6 years at Bharti Airtel. But majority of the students like wish to work for a couple of years, like 1-2 years, then make a switch. 1-2 years, then make a switch. So what is preferred, like changing these drastic shifts, like couple of years, or working in a particular organization?
Again, very tough question. There is no one right answer. I know a lot of folks, my colleagues, peers, friends who have worked in one company for their entire career, and they have done absolutely amazingly well. Versus people who have also shifted versus someone like me who's somewhere in the middle, like done long stints in a lot of organizations, but done that in 2 or 3 organizations. Again, there is no one right recipe, right? You've got to do what works for you. What drives you may be very different from what drives somebody else. Your aspirations are maybe very different from what it is for somebody else. I think it's a big world and there's a lot of ways to build a successful career. I would say even defining that success for yourself is important. I'm being a little philosophical here, but also, look within to say what is it that motivates you. Like I said, for me, I was very clear early on that curiosity and learning and doing new things motivated me more than maybe just getting the next promotion, right? But it may be very different. There's no one right or wrong answer. There are a lot of people who may want to stick in the same role and who have grown vertically up, gotten promoted every year. And that's great too. They get to do larger things as well. So first, see what motivates you, because you have to have a long career of 20, 30 years, right? You have to sustain it. It's not about just getting that one role or one promotion. I'm going to quote one of my ex-leaders from HOL who I really look up to, who used to say that, career is not a one-day match. It's like test cricket all your life. You just have to keep staying at the wicket. You can't leave and go. So with that, if you look at it like that, you've got to see what motivates you for the long term. And if that means you are in a place that you want to try something else and you move frequently, then so be it. Or if that means that one organization is giving you those opportunities, or you are very happy and it motivates you, then that's that. But there's no one right answer. Also, I don't think today, like corporate India or any place is really focused on that. They don't really care if you have done 2 years or 1 year or 5 years. What they care about is what is your story. Is there, are you building a consistent story? Is there a certain thing you're building towards? What is your narrative and what is your brand, right? So work on that, whatever that may be, and you get to define that. That's the best part of it. So build your own unique journey and it'll all add up in the end. I never thought, like I said, that I'd go from Airtel to Google through Unilever and through Flipkart, but that was my journey and I was very clear what I was building. So yeah, that's the way to look at it.
Thank you, Jyothsna, for this insightful conversation. I'll really carry forward that last thing that you said about the test cricket. That is something that I'll always keep close. So to all the folks watching this, have 3 things clear. The first is you should have a band of mind on what you have to do. Second is you have to be adaptable. And third is have your unique story with you. That is what differentiates you. So was it mentioned correctly?
Absolutely. I hope this was helpful. Again, I was just happy to share my learnings along the way. It may be very different for each of you, but wishing all of you a great journey ahead. And thank you so much for this, Ranveer.
Thank you. For one last thing, we have a rapid fire round.
Oh, wow.
Just to chill up a little with things. A lot of big talks happening. So what is one marketing campaign that as a younger self you really related to?
I think my all-time favorite are the Fevicol campaigns, especially now with, we've lost a great stalwart in the industry. We've lost Piyush Pandey, but I have seen them as a child and I've seen some of the campaigns he's done with Unilever while I was there. I think nothing kind of brings that alive more than, that consumer emotional connect. I think Fevicol campaigns will always be the highlight for me.
Okay, so one book that you would recommend to our watchers?
I'm reading a book now which is called The Almanac of Naval Ravikant. I would highly recommend it, especially for folks who are graduating today, because the way he looks at career, life, the key decisions that you need to make, it really changed the way I think about it, and I would definitely recommend that to all of you.
And what is that one city that you like the most from all of your stint around India?
Oh, that's interesting. Interesting fact is I have been to every single state and union territory of the country. I think my job has given me that. I think except one, which I will not mention, but I've been to all of them. So I have a good idea of India, but I think my all-time favorite, if I have to look back now, has got to be the Northeast. I was heading the Northeast cluster for HOL and I just love the entire region. I love Assam, I love Guwahati, I love Dibrugarh. So I think that's special for me just because of the experience I had.
Yes, so just one last thing, one advice that you want to just roll out so just everybody can have it.
I just want to leave you with saying that, build your own career your way. There are, million different ways to build a career and life and journey, and it's okay. Don't get stuck into this kind of race of competing with each other. Your journey is going to be unique and just commit to it.
That's really great. Thank you, Jyothsna.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. It was a pleasure meeting to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you and good luck. Good luck to all of you.